Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Tonight will be a compilation of some wholesome and motivational stories. Before we get into it, though, all the videos in this will be text to speech because these are like early videos and this is before I started doing commentary. But that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the compilation, guys.
They are rage, brutal, without mercy. But you will be worse. Rip and tear until it is done.
What is dreaming or mental movies? Mental movies, we are a human magnet. We became what we think about. I am going to explain this 2 lines in this post with a very interesting example. We all know about the recent release of the movie Gunjan Saxena, The Cargo Girl. What should we learn from the movie? A lot of things that we should learn from this movie. I was strongly attracted toward the dream that she saw since her childhood. Actually, what is dream? We can call it as mental movies or movies of the mind. We are a human magnet. We became what we think about. I am going to explain this 2 lines in this post with a very interesting example. A girl named Alice put a bumper sticker, I-O. So off to work I go on her car. Every morning, Alice steps outside to greet the day and sees the statement, I-O. So off to work I go. When it's time to leave work, she goes back to her car and sees, I-O. This idea will become embedded in her subconscious mind. She'll form mental pictures associated with being in debt. She will attract lots and lots of debt. The harmless little bumper sticker today becomes your reality tomorrow. With an attitude like that, what do you think her future will bring? Prosperity or more debt? We both know the answer to that question. Moral from the story, so be careful while you're dreaming or making your mental movies. Some people use negative aids with very serious consequences.
Cannot determine the cause of the demonic invasion until the Resop satellite is brought back online.
The Fish and Chips Man. So this one time I was in a chip shop, completely random I know. He was 60, he turned around randomly to me after he had just sat down to eat. He stood up and walked over to me. He asked my age. I told him I was 14, that was my age at the time. And then out of nowhere he pulled out a tape measure and measured 70 centimeters and then told me it was called a lifeline and that the average human lives to around 70. He said to look at my age compared to how much he had left, and he started going on about how he feels like he hasn't lived and that he regrets that. And he wanted me to use my time. And he warned me about all the crap that goes on in life, but also said I could do whatever I wanted in my life. 'Cause I'm there for only a short time. Why would it matter if I did something I didn't want to do? He pointed out that whatever can go wrong, there's always got to be a right. And if you don't think it's near, then look at the time you got left.
Demonic presence at unsafe levels. Lockdown in effect.
How to effect a change in your finances. A slave and his master were about to embark on a journey, and the slave pleaded with his master not to tell their host he was a slave. His master agreed with a warning that he should not act like one. They both agreed and set out on the journey. When they got there, their host welcomed them with utmost respect because the man was a very rich and an influential figure. They treated the slave with equal respect because they thought he was a friend or business partner to his master. The way he dressed convinced them even more. Everything went on fine until the next day when his master went out. First, he started to sing meaningless songs, dancing and clapping and disturbing the peace of the house. After smoking marijuana, he pulled off the shirt he wore, not minding it was winter, went straight to their host's garden, and began to cut down some overgrown flowers, feeling that he was in his master's house. When they saw the way he behaved, they concluded that he would be the right person to wash all the dirty dishes in the house. They ordered him to the kitchen at once. He grinned and started to do what he knew how to do best. When his master returned and saw him in the kitchen washing dirty dishes, he asked him, Was I the one who called you a slave? Before they embarked on that journey, the slave forgot one thing. He forgot that wherever a man goes to dwell, his character goes with him. He wore his best clothes to the place, but forgot that his attitude was naked. He was so dumb to come to the realization that it was not really the chains on him that made him a slave, but his attitude towards life. As they set out on the journey, his master kept his promise by setting him free. Despite this, he was still in chains. No wonder the great boxing legend Muhammad Ali said, "It isn't a mountain ahead to climb that wear you out. It is the pebble in your shoes." Dear reader, it is madness to apply the same antidote to an ailment and expect a different result. Madness to expect to look like Beyonce or Tom Cruise when the image you set before a mirror bear great resemblance with that of Pongo Pygmaeus, orangutan. You might be putting in as much effort as anyone else, but if what you do with your time and with your life is not in alignment with the vibration of success, your life would go on like this indefinitely. Simply put, you will remain where you are until your lifespan runs out in death. Success, contrary to what many think, does not happen accidentally. It requires something from us to manifest. There are two things you need to let go before you can become success. Finally made it to college after dreaming of it my whole life. Sorry for any typos or horrid grammar. This is my first post. Ever since I was around 8 years old, I dreamed of going to college. I, however, was homeschooled, and not the good kind. My mom taught me how to read when I was about 7 to 8. My dad was always too busy working, and I had 6 other siblings, so my mom never had time to teach us. My younger siblings were special needs, so I had to raise them from the age of 1 till they were at least 6 to 7 years old. When I was 9, my mom gave me a few school workbooks, then told me to make sure I did them every day. For years later, she asked me if I did any of it. I obviously hadn't. I fucking played games all day long, and it was amazing until I turned 14 and realized how much I fucked my life up by not trying. But because of how busy my life was, helping raise kids, helping run my mother's business and all, I had no time to study. But when I got a few years older, I finally got a job, saved up and bought a laptop, then went online sites to teach myself. When I turned 18, I went out and took my HISA test. Somehow passed it, then took my ACT test as well, and did amazingly well in some areas. Next thing I know, I'm signing up for classes in a community college near me. And looking back on myself 2 years ago, I've come a long way. I've achieved my biggest dream in life. Now I have a steady job, a car, and I'm going to college in less than 3 weeks thanks to my girlfriend and her family, who helped me out and pushed me to study and get my HISA. So if anyone reads this or anything, my best advice to you is that if you have a dream, never give up. The family that beeps together. I live in the only real city in a pretty rural area. So our big shopping mall tend to attract families who come in from nearby villages for their big stock-up trips a couple of times a year. This was back when self-checkouts were still a novelty, but our mall's grocery store already had a few. I'm using one when the machine next to me frees up. A trio swoops in, a grandmother, a mother, and a little girl who's maybe 4, all clearly on an exciting family shopping adventure. Their cart is packed. They poke at the touchscreen for a bit until they get the hang of it. And then Grandma starts scanning. After every single item, Grandma leans in and makes the most enthusiastic little beep sound. After a minute, Mom suddenly asks, Mom, can I do the beep too? I've always wanted to do that since I was a kid. Grandma bursts out laughing and says, Grandma, of course. It's fun, isn't it? I always wanted to do it too. So now both of them are doing dramatic, delighted beeps with every item, and the little girl gets her turn as well, with some help from her mother. They're absolutely thrilled, and honestly, it was adorable. The attendant monitoring the self-checkout eventually walks over, smiling so hard I thought her face might crack, and gives them a small discount. Attendant, because you ladies just made my whole shift. paying so you can move forward. Yesterday, I had a rare interaction at a grocery store. I had gone to get several things and went through the register with very little weight. I got out to my car and realized I had forgotten a couple of small things. I went back inside and went to the aisle where they were located, but didn't see exactly what I was looking for. I spent about 5 minutes deciding on what to get instead and headed to the registers. There were several open, and none of them seemed to have more than one customer, but every customer had a lot of items. I hate self-checkout. So I finally picked one where the customer seemed to have the fewest items. I got in line and noticed they were a young family. Dad, mom, toddler, and baby in a sling across Dad's chest. They were still unloading their cart when Dad looked at me and saw that I didn't seem to have much. Dad, do you have many items? I showed him what I had, and he said, Dad, you know you can use the self-checkout rather than waiting. I kind of resented that he seemed to think I didn't know that. Me, I hate self-checkout. He then looked at the mom, then back at me, and picked up my 2 items and handed them to the cashier, who rang them up and put them in a bag. Dad, so you don't have to wait for us. Today your things are on me. I tried to thank him, but he was too busy with his family to pay attention, so I left. My total was less than $6, I think, but I was very grateful to this young family. I will look for an opportunity to pass it on in the near future. Maybe I will even do it more than once. Our regulars wear many hats and sometimes badges. I work at one of the busiest stores in the state for a very big coffee chain. It's always packed, but our regulars are the best. One day, a guy in the lobby gets heated. Something about whipped cream, one of those tiny things we could have fixed in a heartbeat. His voice carries across the cafe. Before I can step in, one of our regulars in the drive-thru, a police officer who usually comes by in her squad car, happens to be off-duty but still in uniform. She hears the noise, parks her car, and walks straight inside, not even waiting for her drink. She doesn't have to say a word. The man eventually calms down and leaves on his own. Afterward, we try to give her a drink for free, just as a thank you for looking out for us. She shakes her head, pays in full, and drops a $20 bill into the tip jar instead. I know the cops around here don't make a huge amount of money, but there's just a weird and awesome bond we have with our regulars. Hats off to happy couples. Mid__, January 3rd, 2026. Last season, I was working at a little winter gear shop in a ski town. One of those places where everything from snowboards to mittens is stacked to the ceiling. One snowy Saturday, a couple came in with their 2 kids. The kids went straight for the helmets and ski boots, eagerly pulling their parent around, begging to try on every single item. While the mom was distracted, the dad came up to me, casting a quick look over his shoulder. With a grin, he whispered, "Husband, don't let my wife see. I've been eyeing this hat for weeks." He slipped me 30 euros, and I rang him up, casually chatting about the powder forecast as I tucked the beanie into his bag. Just as he finished, his wife approached, wrangling the kids. She made her way over to the same rack of hats and leaned over the counter with a knowing smile. "Wife, don't let my husband see, but he's been needing this hat." She handed me the cash, winked, and went back to gathering up their gear. They left with a little secret smile on each of their faces, and I knew they just bought each other the same hat.
Welcome to the UAC. Now 221 accident-free days.
Hello, I am Vega, the sentient intelligence assigned to Mars. After running diagnostics on the Praetor suit, it appears that I can activate
Tip to be a
optional
good year.
challenges
Our
that when
24-hour
completed,
fast food
assist in
restaurant is
upgrading your
open
arsenal
on New
at an
Year's Eve.
accelerated pace.
We're getting ready to
I
work
have
through
added a
midnight.
tracking component
When a
to your
co-worker
dossier.
notices something in the tip jar, we keep at the order station. Co-worker, oh my God. Me, what is it? We all turn to see our co-worker holding up a $100 bill attached to a note that says, "Note, for everyone who worked instead of partying." Co-worker, that's awesome. Me, that wasn't there an hour ago. Co-worker, who could have been? Me, I don't know, but I want to wish them a happy new year. We tell our manager, who loves a mystery, and goes back to the camera footage. Manager, it's hot chocolate guy. Me, the guy that came in just for a small hot chocolate? Manager, yeah, it looks like he was waiting for you all to turn your backs to leave the tip. He just sat there, drinking his hot chocolate, then ran up to the jar to dump the money, and then ran out. If I didn't know what was about to happen, I'd have thought he was going to swipe the jar. Co-worker, Happy New Year to hot chocolate guy. The receipt that sparked a resolution. I'm starting my shift on the morning of New Year's Eve. A woman approaches my checkout, and I start scanning her items. Then she says, "Customer, do you remember me?" Me, I'm sorry I don't. I get a lot of customers. The customer smiles and shows me a carefully folded receipt from our store. It's dated exactly 1 year ago, on last year's New Year's Eve. For a split second, I'm worried that this woman is about to ask for a refund on an item she bought last year. But then I notice a small written scrawl at the bottom of the receipt. It's my own handwriting. Scrawl, cheering you on? I know you can do it. Suddenly, a memory comes rushing back into my brain. Last year, I served a woman who was buying a lot of healthy items. She had been commenting about how she had received worrying news from her doctor that her health was being impacted by her diet. And she was at serious risk in the coming year if she didn't change what she ate. I remembered her looking worried and not feeling very hopeful for the year ahead. I remembered scrawling that little note on the receipt to provide what tiny encouragement I could. This woman in front of me now is easily over 100 pounds lighter than the woman I had served a year ago, but it is definitely the same woman, me, now beaming. Well, I guess you did it. Customer, yep, clean bill of health from the doctor. Every day I felt tempted to fall into bad habits. I would look at your note. My family didn't think I could do it, but I remember that one cashier who believed in me, and I didn't want to let her down. Me, I don't know what to say. Customer, nothing to say. I just wanted to let you know and wish you a happy new year. I'm holding back tears as I scan her, still healthy, items. We have a little hug. And now she's my weekly regular customer, sharing recipes on healthy food and such. A little philosophical exchange inside a pizza quesadilla. My grandfather and I were returning from a long trip. It was Christmas night. We had not eaten very much at the Christmas church service we were returning from, and Grandpa had an unused $20 gift card for a popular pizza chain. So we decided to stop at that chain for something to eat. I scratched off the gift card and entered the small store. I'd never been inside a chain before and didn't know what they usually sold. So it took me a moment to inspect the menu. The store was empty except for two scruffy-looking, strong, tattooed young men behind the counter. One was bald, and the other wore long dreadlocks. Being a young woman alone in the building with them, I was admittedly somewhat nervous initially. The scruffier employee, perhaps seeing my hesitation, greeted me. Employee, "Hi, have you ever been in a chain before?" Me, "Oh, hi. Nope, never, but I was always curious. Do you guys sell sandwiches at all?" He smiled at my stupid question, but he answered my question instead of laughing at me. Employee, "Really never?" No, we don't sell sandwiches, but I can make you a couple of pizza quesadillas. Folded pizza crust stuff or whatever you want. I ordered a cheesesteak quesadilla for Grandpa and a custom quesadilla, stuffed with turkey, barbecue sauce, spinach, and Swiss cheese for myself. As the less scruffy employee went to make them for me, the first employee made small talk. Employee, you look like you're dressed up for church. I was wearing a modest dress, black dress shoes, and a 1940s style cloche hat. Me, yep, my grandfather wanted to go to a Christmas service with his family a couple of hours away. I'm Christian, but I don't really celebrate Christmas. I went for him, though. Do you guys usually work through the holidays? Employee, I'm Muslim. I don't celebrate Christmas either. We work through every holiday. He then started getting into a deep discussion on common morals versus religion, the moral obligations of man, how television corrupts both religion and morals, etc. I admit it was an interesting conversation, and we actually agreed on several points. It turned out that he was quite the philosopher. By the time the food was done, we both had a decent amount of respect for each other's viewpoints. When I went to check out, the gift card wouldn't scan. It turns out their scanner was broken. Employee, you know what? They're on the house. It was really nice talking to somebody so polite with a head on their shoulders. And it's off hours. Just enjoy them. I thanked them both and left a big tip, waving and wishing them well as I left. The quesadillas were fantastic, and I will definitely be returning to that place. Clients from heaven. I have a hobby that I turn into a small business. It's not a lot of money, but it's kind of nice, and it's a thing that I enjoy doing. Over the last 5 years or so, I have developed a reputation as a man of my word and someone who provides a great product at a fair price. I live in an area that has a lot of vacation homes around a lake. These homes are owned by people who have $500,000 or more to spend on having a place on the lake to go on weekends during the summer. Mary and Steve were two of these people. Mary and Steve own a couple of businesses. They are known for treating people fairly. Even people whom they have fired will tend to acknowledge that they had it coming. Mary stopped by my shop back in September. She wanted to hire me to do some work for them, for Steve's Christmas gift. I could do what she wanted me to do. I gave her a price tag of $5,500. She agreed instantly. We shook hands, and I went to work. I got it finished up on December 20th, just in time. I had to take a few days off from my regular job to make it happen. Mary was thrilled at the results. She went to get me a check, and she wanted to write it out for $11,000, double what we agreed on. I declined, telling her the $5,500 was what we agreed to, and that's all I was going to take. December 26th rolls around, and Steve shows up, thanking me for his Christmas gift, gushing over the craftsmanship, then complains that I wouldn't take the bonus money that I was offered. I explained to him. Me. Mary and I agreed on the price, and we shook hands on it. A deal is a deal. Steve, well, at least let me buy you and your girlfriend dinner 21 times. He had a big-ass asterisk, 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 eating grin on his face. I should have known he was up to something. I thought about it, thinking about local restaurants, and agreed. Then he said, Steve, my choice, any place I choose, all on my dime. In hindsight, this should have clued me into the fact that he had something up his sleeve. I smiled, laughed, and said okay. The entire month of January went by. I didn't hear anything from Steve and Mary, which is fine. We're not exactly in the same social circles. At the end of January, all of a sudden my girlfriend just got super happy, like giddy. I knew she had a secret she was keeping from me, but I wasn't sure what. She told me to pack my bags for a Valentine's Day trip. We would be gone for 10 days and bring my passport. We got to the airport, and who would you guess was there? Steve and Mary. I was shocked as this asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Steve said he had a debt to pay, and he owed us 21 meals at a time and place of his choosing. And he chose Rome over Valentine's Day. I tried to say no, but he threw my words back in my face. Steve, a deal's a deal. The four of us spent the next week in Rome, Italy. Steve and Mary paid for our flights, hotel room, and 21 meals. All of our tours and transport were on us. We got back home on the 22nd of February. We had a great time.
Demonic presence at unsafe level. Lockdown in effect.
A pleasant discover why. I'm taking a commuter train to a rock concert in downtown Salt Lake. Just before I board, I see an email from Discover Card saying my replacement credit card was on its way because it's been reported lost/stolen. I think, that's strange. I don't remember doing that. Is this a phishing email? But then I look at my wallet, and sure enough, my card is gone. I call Discover, and as it turns out, it fell out of my wallet when I tapped the fare payment card against the reader. I didn't see it happen, but someone found it at the station, rather than go out on a spending spree, because no one ever checks ID or signature here. They called it in and reported it. There are still plenty of good people in this world. They just don't make very many headlines. When fast food slows down, I worked at a fast food place in my teenage years, but I worked a unique one on a military base inside a large U.S. military hospital in Germany that treated many of those hurt in wars. I was working there during the surge in Iraq. I started to notice a soldier come in. He had intense burns all over his body. Most of his face was wrapped up. You could tell he had burns everywhere, and every step was painful. He would come to my fast food place every Sunday and order an original chicken sandwich with onion rings, everything fresh. Quickly, I recognized he always orders the same thing. So one day I made a deal with him. If he sees me working, he sits at the closest table, and I'll punch in his order, get his food, and take his payment at the table. No, of course we weren't set up for this. This is fast food, but I did it. I did it every time I saw him. Then one day, my manager was working on Sunday and saw me do it. He told me I can't do that. I basically said, I understand, I don't care, I'm going to keep doing it. My manager tried to explain the reasoning, which I understand, and I cut him off and said I plan on continuing to do it. That was the end of that conversation. I would even make customers wait if they weren't also hurt. I remember one time I made a colonel wait for his food so I could get this soldier's food. The colonel saw me do this, gave me a coin, and asked me what my name was, and asked me where my dad worked. I was nervous. I just told him what I knew. That night I came home, and my dad said the colonel called him and told him what I was doing. At the time, my dad was an NCO enlisted, so a random colonel calling him and giving him props over something his son is doing made him proud.
Access granted. Access granted.
Welcome to the UAC's Mars installation.
Bookmarked for a happy ending. I'm on the till at a charity shop. I'm cashing out 2 women. One of them is gushing over these page corner bookmarks we sell. Woman number 1. If you don't stop, I'm gonna slap your T*T in a minute. Woman number 2, while cupping her chest. Which one? Woman number 1. I haven't decided yet. Woman number 2 walks out of the shop looking sad and sits on a bench opposite the entrance. Woman number 1. Oh, and I'll have this bookmark, please. She hands me the one woman number 2 said she liked the most. Me, oh, okay. Woman number 1. Look, she may be the most annoying person to ever walk the planet, but I'm the one who married her. She paid, left, and a few seconds later, I heard a squeal of excitement. dying for a drying, working mostly service jobs. I've never been able to afford a place that has a washer and dryer in unit. So I usually have to use a laundromat, and because I'm busy just about every minute of the day, I wind up having to go to a laundromat that's open late, so I can do my laundry. I put my clothes in and hop back into my car, because I'm also running errands. As I'm driving back, I notice the street lights go out. The traffic lights are dark. Oh no, I get back to the laundromat, and the lights are off. I hope that the cycle is at least finished, but no such luck. My clothes are dripping wet. The attendant is closing up, as apparently a drunk driver hit a utility pole, and it's going to be a couple of hours before it's fixed. Lucky me, I load the clothes back into my car, hoping they don't soak all the way through the trunk, and speed up the road to the nearest laundromat, and I pray that they're open. I walk in, and the attendant there looks at me, annoyed. Attendant, last wash was half an hour ago. Me, okay, what if I just want to dry some things? I tell her how the power went out the place down the road, and that I'm basically stuck with dripping wet clothes. And this absolute gem of a human helps me haul my dripping wet clothes out of the car. I proceed to wring out the worst offenders in the parking lot, and she takes them and tosses them into the dryer for free, spacing everything out in different machines so things dry faster. By the time everything is in the dryers, I am soaking wet, and it's closing in on 10 p.m., but she helped me finish up and didn't charge me anything but the first few quarters I popped in when I started. I thanked her profusely and tried to give her something, but she wouldn't accept anything. So I left a note for the owner with a glowing review. I hope it helped her out, but I never saw her at that laundromat again, so I have no idea. The formula for kindness. It is sometime in December, and my son is 4 months old. He's my first baby, so I'm definitely exhausted. My husband tells me to go to the store to pick up some formula, since we're low, but to also give me some time to myself for a little bit. We have a few coupons, because my son needed to be on some specialized formula, which was expensive, so any money we could save would help. It had been a long week, and this particular day was a day when it felt like nothing was going right. I'm at the store getting the formula plus a few small things to treat myself when I get to check out. I had to go through the regular man checkouts because of the coupon. It had to be run through like a check. I pulled out of my wallet, and she started to run it through when it declined. She tries again and it fails. She calls over the customer service manager to see if they could figure out the issue. When it still didn't work, she took me over to customer service to try it there, so I didn't hold up the line. Interestingly enough, she and I have the same name and the same spelling. So we were talking about that. She ran the check through again and it failed, and she told me that because the check had been folded to go in my wallet, the numbers at the bottom wouldn't read. I lost it. I started bawling my eyes out. I was exhausted. My husband and I were tight for money enough as it was. And now, I had ruined the coupon we really needed to pay for the formula. I told the manager that it wasn't her fault, and I was sorry for crying. I was just overwhelmed. She told me to wait just a few minutes, and she went into the back to make a phone call. She came back and told me that the coupon wouldn't go through, but that she was going to give me the $15 off, and she would cover it. I tried to tell her that this wasn't what I was trying to do, and I could pay full price, but she told me not to worry about it and to go home and get some rest. That was almost a year ago, but I still think about it often because I truly wasn't trying to get anything my way, but she still saved my mental health that day. I left a 5-star review for her online, and I doubt she ever thinks about me, but I think about her all the time. The slippers didn't slip his mind. My immediate family is spread out across the USA a bit, but we normally try to get together for Christmas, which is also a family birthday. This year, most of us will be gathering, but my eldest brother and his wife will not be able to join us. His wife cannot travel because of a medical condition, and her mother passed away earlier this year, So, for that and other reasons, he will be staying with her on the other side of the country. Because there are so many of us, we pick names each year. So each of us only needs to buy one present for one other person in the group. Spouses/significant others buy each other additional things generally. It means we can each get one person something nice, rather than try and come up with 5 to 10 presents for all the various people in attendance. This year, I picked my eldest brother's name. His wish list had a variety of things on it, including a very nice pair of slippers. How slippers could cost that much, I didn't know, but he wanted them, and I wanted him to have the nice slippers. I went to the company's website on Monday, and they were having a Cyber Monday sale. I didn't think too hard about why slippers would be on sale for Cyber Monday. I just called myself lucky and used the money saved to get my brother another item for his list. I ordered the slippers to be sent to his address and went on with my day. An hour or two went by, and I had a sudden, creeping suspicion that I had ordered the wrong color. I checked his wish list and then checked my order. I'd gotten the size right, but had missed the color he wanted. Drat. I immediately tried to get onto the site's help chat to see if I could quickly change the color before they shipped. After waiting on a 2-minute hold on the chat function for almost 10 minutes, I dug up their help number and called in. I waited a couple of minutes before a representative answered. Representative, I'm sorry, but because of the high volume of sales happening today, I'm not able to switch the order. The best I can do is place another order for you for the right color slippers and send a return label for the incorrect pair. I wasn't happy about this. It hadn't been very long, and I was mad at myself for not checking more carefully when placing the order, and I'm not wealthy or anything. So I wasn't prepared to place another order right that second. While I was waffling, the representative said, "Huh, look at that." And I asked him what was up. Representative, "Oh, I just saw that you're in Chicago. I'm from Chicago." He said it gave him a little flash of nostalgia. Me, thank you for your time. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the slippers, but go ahead and send the return label just in case. Representative, I will do that. Could you stay on the line for a moment? The phone's going to start ringing again as soon as we hang up, and I want to just finish making this note here. Me, sure, but I'll need to put you on speakerphone and get back to work. Representative, I'm fine with that. I put him on speaker, and we chatted a bit while he finished up what he was doing. When he was done, we said our goodbyes. I thought about it, and especially given the rough past couple of years and the fact that my brother couldn't join us, I didn't want to be responsible for my brother receiving a mildly disappointing present. I knew it wasn't a huge deal, but I wanted him to receive what he actually wanted and asked for. So later that night, I got back on the site and ordered the right color slippers to be delivered to him. I figured I'd send him the return label for the wrong ones. And worst case scenario, if he would forget to return them or something, then he'd have 2 comfy pairs of slippers, and I'd be out a little extra money. But I'd manage. A couple of days later, I got an email from the vendor saying that my order couldn't be processed because of missing payment information or something. I logged on a check and saw that the first order I placed had been canceled. The second was in process. I have no proof, but I think Representative circled back and canceled the wrong one for me when he was able. I could be wrong, but I used the same information for both orders, so it seems likely, and it's the option that makes me smile, that he remembered and cared enough to go back and spend time he didn't have to save me a little worry. Thank you, Representative, and happy holidays. The tandoor. Before the tandoor, there was a shutter that never opened. It was metal, ribbed, and sun-peeled, with a faint advertisement for surf powder ghosted across its middle. The kind of shop shutter you see 1,000 times in 1,000 streets. Closed so long you stopped noticing it. Kids played cricket in front of it. A neighbor leaned his bicycle there every afternoon. Someone even taped a room for rent flyer once, years after the man who owned it had passed. The shop was attached to a narrow house. Brick, 2 stories, small gate, scallop grillwork on the balcony. The kind of house that leaned slightly into its neighbors. Banu's house. But no one called it hers. They just said number 17, the one next to the corner clinic. Then one day the shutter opened. Not fully, just halfway, behind the metal. Dust shifted like someone had come to play with it after a long time. Just a woman kneeling inside on a mat, dragging a plastic drum across the floor. Banu was in her 40s, barefoot, bangles quiet on her wrist, her dupatta tied back on her head. Nobody said anything the first day. They just looked as they passed. Even the fruit seller slowed. On the second day, she swept the shop out onto the street. Neat little piles, cement dust, cigarette butts, old receipts from an old life. She poured water to keep the dust from rising. A neighbor scolded her for wasting too much. She nodded once and kept sweeping. That night, the smell of charcoal came from number 17. By the end of the week, people stopped pretending not to look. The tandoor was set into a cement ring she built herself, with bricks stacked in a half moon around its base. A rusted pedestal fan pointed toward the tandoor. A wooden stool tucked beside a blue plastic crate. On top of the crate, a gala, a dented metal cash box with no lock. There was no board, no price list, just 4 naans resting under a mesh cover. No flyers, no helpers. She sat and waited. The naan sat with her. They had the uneven edges of something made by hand, not mold, slightly thicker in the center, golden brown in patches. A little burn at one corner. 15 rupees, she said to her first customer, and handed them over. That was all. People bought one, came back the next day, bought 3. By the end of the week, a queue had started to form. Quietly, just after Maghrib, the tandoor's black mouth glowed deep orange with confidence, warmth that wasn't borrowed from anywhere else. Her hands moved steadily, dough to hand to slap, slap to wall, wall to plate. When she ran out, she ran out. And when a young boy came around, shirt too big, eyes too quick, she gave him a cup of water without a word. The next day, he came back, not to beg, to help. She didn't tell him what to do. He swept, he fetched water. He carried charred naans to the waste bin, and the waste bin to the trash heap. By the third day, he started taking money. The shop had changed already, but the smell stayed the same. By the second week, people no longer pretended it was strange. The line outside number 17 grew wider than it was long, like a clump of waiting. Men from the pharmacy next door, a retired teacher with his newspaper still folded, a girl in her school uniform biting her thumbnail. They didn't speak much. They just watched the smoke ribbon up into the alley and waited for the boy to signal with his hand. Next, the boy's name was never asked, but someone started calling him Koda, and it stuck. He wore slippers too big and a shirt that had belonged to someone who ate more than he did, but his eyes were alert, sharp. He wiped the counter without being told. He stopped customers from crowding the tandoor. He learned quickly when to say no more and when to say Badu minute. Nobody asked where he came from. On Fridays, he wore a red cap. Inside, the shop started changing. Not fast, but surely. First came the jute mat near the threshold, for those who wanted to sit while they waited, then a shelf made from 2 bricks and an old ironing board, holding a thermos of chai, a few glasses, a tin of sugar. She never charged for the chai. She just poured it when she felt someone look tired. The tandoor burned longer now. Banu's hands moved faster, but not rougher. Her bangles stayed silent. People started saying Banu's naans felt denser, and the rotis felt fluffier in the hand. They weren't always perfectly round, but they folded easily, tore clean, and stayed warm even after you reached home. Some started bringing sabzi from their kitchens and eating on the spot. One afternoon, an uncle from the mosque asked where her husband was. She wiped her hands on a cloth, gestured to the tandoor, and said, Yahan. In the 4th week, Afzal from 2 streets over, owner of the old tandoor near the post office, came by. He didn't speak, just watched. His apron was stained, his hair oiled back. He stood behind the line like everyone else, arms folded. Koda saw him. But Nu didn't. When it was his turn, he didn't ask for a naan, just stepped forward, picked up the thermos of chai, poured a glass, sipped, and left a half full on the crate. Then he walked away. That night, Banu wiped the glass and placed it back, upright. But the next day, she added kulcha to the crate, slightly sweeter with a crackled top. It sold out before Maghrib. The rival tandoor stayed open, but its line began to shrink. Children started coming alone. 2 coins pressed into a palm, mother's instructions in a whisper. Laborers on cycles stopped by on the way home, tucking naans into plastic bags under their seat. Even the milkman asked Koda to hold 2 for him till his round was done. The clinic next door asked her to start making whole wheat roti for diabetic patients. The tandoor itself changed too, black and deeper, shaped smoother. The cement ring caught the ash in a neater curve. Someone gifted a hand fan, and it joined the pedestal fan, fixed together by a wire loop. By then, people had stopped calling it that woman's tandoor and started calling it Banu's. It was no longer number 17. It was a place. Somewhere in the 5th week, the complaints began. Not openly, never in front of her. It started as small talk between neighbors. Did you hear how late she stays open? Then a murmur in the masjid courtyard. A woman running a shop like that? Then a whisper over tea. She's clever, not decent. The Mahalla committee didn't summon her. It never worked that directly. Instead, the doctor from the clinic next door was asked to have a word. He didn't. Then an old lady, the one who used to run sewing classes from her terrace, stopped sending her granddaughter for naan, started sending the maid to the next sector instead. 2 boys were caught mimicking Banu's posture outside the tandoor, slapping imaginary dough to invisible walls. One of their fathers made them apologize. Banu accepted it like she accepted most things, with a nod and a cloth in her hand. Koda didn't like it. He started coming earlier, leaving later, sweeping wider. When a group of teenage girls stopped outside one evening, school bags on their shoulders, curiosity in their eyes, Koda stepped aside and offered them the mat to sit. Someone left a box of hing powder on the shelf. Someone else left a pack of dry yeast. One day, folded into the dough sack, Koda found a recipe written in neat Urdu, a lunan for winter. The smell changed again. Richer, deeper, steamier. People began asking for a half-cooked naan to finish on their own tawa at home. She obliged when the fog rolled in, the thick fog that softens headlights and quiets alleys. Banu lit a small clay lamp outside the shutter, one at the front, one inside near the dough. The light flickered in a way that made people stand closer. By sunset, 3 new chairs had appeared outside, low plastic ones mismatched, with a small steel table, sharp and square, but aged. That evening, the line came earlier, stayed longer. The chairs remained occupied. Sound of the crowd blended with the ribbons of smoke and scent of warm tea. A boy from the next street offered to paint her a board, Banu Hotel. A week later, the same wall held a new sign, painted neatly in white on a field of blue with red strokes around the curving letters. The board said Banu Hotel, but most people still called it Banu Ka Tandoor, or just the tandoor. By now, she was making more than just naan, and a paratha for the boys who came late. A lunan folded into wrinkly newspaper and plastic tile-loss. Sweet rusk soaked in leftover chai. Sometimes a doll she wouldn't name. Sometimes something green and sharp with tamarind in it. No one ever saw her shopping. No one ever saw deliveries. But the queue grew. It grew slowly, respectfully, a kind of growth that knew not to gawk. And so did the story. There were whispers, of course, that she used to be rich, that her husband had left her gold bars, that she'd fed prisoners once during some protest, that her dough had Ajwa dates in it, that she wasn't really from here, that she didn't talk because she was educated. But the truth was smaller than that, and harder to hold. Banu didn't affirm or deny anything. She just kept cooking and people stayed. And one day, one ordinary, unspectacular Thursday, the other tandoor in the Mahalla didn't open. The man who ran it had grumbled for weeks, said she was ruining the rates, said women shouldn't do Mazdori, said she was using a gas cylinder under the counter. She wasn't. He left town for his cousin's wedding and didn't return for 2 months. By the time he came back, his shutter had rust at the hinges, and Banu had 3 helper boys, all called Coda. One sorted the coins, one folded the dough, one watched the crowd and passed jokes in low, whistled tones. They never disrespected her. She never raised her voice. The middle Coda once told a boy from the flats nearby, she doesn't shout. She just waits, and that's worse. But not cruel. She wrapped leftover naan in newspaper and left on the side shelf for Safaiwala. When a rickshaw broke down nearby, she sent the driver chai before he asked. When it rained hard and the drain backed up, she stood ankle-deep in water with a stick, unclogging it, the patta tied to her chin. The doctor from a next-door clinic started stopping by after hours. BAS checking, he'd say. Choti book. At once, Banu passed him a stack of flaky rusks without a word. When chai was added to the menu, no one noticed how naturally it had arrived. It came in glasses with old chai stains and strong fingers of a drac and elaichi. No price was written. People dropped what they thought fair into the gala. Some overpaid, some underpaid. The chairs became 4, then 6. Then one of the Kumars from the newer block offered a hand cart as a makeshift counter. It was wiped clean, placed near the front. A small mirror was added, and a faded page from an old-school notebook was taped to its side. Today, Anda Naan plus chai equals 5 rupee. The writing was uneven, probably one of the Kodas, and Banu didn't correct it. One evening, a school van pulled up near the chowk and stalled. Not broken, just idling. A new girl stepped out. Oversized backpack, oil-slick braid, unsure shoes. She stood at the edge of the tandoor's growing perimeter, watched the chairs. The queue, the way the dough changed shape when slapped. She clutched a 5 rupee coin so tight the imprint stayed on her palm. One of the Kodas noticed, nudged another. Then the middle one, the one who sorted coins, went to Banu and said nothing, just tilted his head slightly. Banu looked over, nodded. A glass of chai appeared. Then a folded naan, hot but not too hot, wrapped with the kind of precision that made it feel like a gift. No charge. The girl didn't say thank you. Just sat, ate, watched. From then on, she came every Thursday. That winter, the fog arrived early. Nights thickened. The mahala dimmed, but the glow from Banu's tandoor stayed sharp. The 3 lamps, the coals, the warm metal of the fan blade spinning slow. Chairs were rearranged. A plastic sheet hung to block the wind. The cart was reinforced with bricks at the base. One of the boys brought a radio. Not loud, just company. Old songs, cricket scores, wedding commercials, static between tracks. And then one day, the girl from the van returned with her younger brother. He was fussy, hungry. She fed him half her naan before touching her own. The middle Koda brought her a second one. On his own, she didn't protest. One morning, Koda arrived and found a steel counter had appeared overnight. Welded legs, smooth top, big enough for 3 people to work at once. He looked at Banu. She only said, "It was in the back." Later that night, after the shutter was pulled and the gala locked, Banu sat alone on the plastic stool, one hand in her lap, one brushing crumbs from the wooden counter. She looked at the chairs, at the signboard, at the 3 Kodas stacking crates. She smiled. The shop was no longer a shop. It had become something else. A man and a cat. One of the things my father always got right was how to act around animals. It's magic to see him work around them. Animals don't necessarily trust him, but he trusts them. He always seemed so careful around them, like he understood their needs. Chicken came up to him for rubs. Sheep and even geese like his company. The old family cat, by the name of Cheap Eye, who now spends her days snoring in front of the fireplace, was once a fierce and wild beast, an unapproachable wild animal, that carved some of the most beautiful scars I have. 14 years ago, we got her from the shelter, where she had already hurt every volunteer who held her, the lonely kitten with unending anger who bit and scratched all the time. She was wild, and I took too long to realize that. My father, however, always kept his distance. He never got bit, never got scratched. One day, after 8 long years, Cheap Eyes started being sick. She lost her energy, lost weight, and became just a ghost of her old self. Her bites were soft nibbling, and all she could muster were low, weak grumbling. My father got her to the vet, who was meaner than the cat, and who dreaded her yearly visit. After examining the frail beast, she declared, "She has a tumor. It's going to eat her away. Now, we can try and remove it, or you can try again with a nicer kitty, one that'll deserve the care you give out." My dad didn't respond, only nodded and paid his dues. His mind was set. We never leave anyone behind. A few days later, her surgery was scheduled. I nursed Cheap Eye, tried to get her to drink, to eat, kept her out of the heat of the sun. It felt like I was holding a bag of bones. The surgery came, and my father was honest. A cat that's already that old could not handle the anesthesia well. He warned us that the tumor may come back, that infections existed, but he insisted that we were doing that for her. He said, if I was her, I'd want for people to take care of me. 8 years old is too short of a life. Obviously, that stubborn beast made it. The exact moment she drowsily walked into the living room. After she got back, we all felt like a switch flipped. She made her way onto the couch and curled up right beside my father, like she never did before. She started to trust us, accepted pets, asked for food, asked for pets. Cheap Eye was still her old, grumpy self, but had welcomed us into her circle. My father, especially, became safety incarnate for her. She'd run to him every evening when he came home and started laying down on his shoulders during breakfast. She'd scream for him to get her food and would hide behind him in front of guests. A few years later, my father got sick, inexplicable pain that his doctor dismissed as migraines. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, barely could drink. It lasted 23 days before we brought him to the ER. He had a tumor that was eating his brain away. However, he did not make the choice for it to be removed, as he was about to die from it. He lived through his operation, battled through recovery, and got home with chemo the very day he stepped into the living room. Cheap Eye was waiting patiently for him, laying down on the couch's armchair. As he sat down, she sniffed his hand, and when she had confirmation that his favorite person was back, she headbutted it. She got up, stretched, and cuddled up against him the same way she did when she was the one coming back. Every day now, as my dad sits down with his cup of coffee, the old tiger softens up and comes up to cuddle. She gets up on his lap and makes a comfortable little loaf of herself, all while staring at him. And she purrs. She purrs so loud, he can't even hear the TV. Sometimes. My dad is going through everything with so much strength, and I like to believe that every day some of that strength is generated by an old tiger, curled up on his lap, purring as hard as she can. I believe she knows he's as sick as she was, and does her best to soothe him. My love story with my best friend. I only do it to let off some steam. I met him, let's call him Jack, shortly after moving to my father's childhood town to live. Our mothers parked in the same place, and we started talking little by little. We're both shy, and besides, we don't go to the same course. Then I started getting to know him more, and we stayed at the high school waiting for our siblings to go out. The school and high school have different departure times. Then we started talking and playing basketball together, his favorite sport. Then we started to get closer and get to know more. And we started the best friendship in the world, but I started to fall in love with him without even knowing it. Then on my 14th birthday, when we said goodbye, Jack kissed me on the cheek. I was very surprised and blushed because I didn't expect it. Then we saw each other almost every day together in the car. And then Jack also started high school. He goes to one course less than me, and here the drama began. There was a boy we'll call Dylan. Dylan was Jack's friend. Dylan didn't like me being with Jack at all and tried to separate us. How? Inventing the biggest lie possible. He left the following year to the USA. We're from Spain. And guess what? Jack believed it and stuck to it like a booger. I always saw them together. It seems that Dylan spells him or something, and I was dying of jealousy until they went out together once. And that was that I was dying of jealousy. I didn't believe it all, and I tried to tell Jack the truth. And he told me that Dylan is his friend and will be with him until the end. That destroyed me, and I didn't talk about it again with him. Then the truth was discovered and Dylan ended up being a false infidel who deceived everyone, and he hated me for the mere fact that I was gay. Summer began in Jack. His brother and I went out together every day while his mother, who was pregnant, was preparing for the baby. Every day I fell in love and got closer to Jack. We hugged, played, and even shook hands until the day came when Jack wanted to confess something to me. Would him finally confess his feelings? No, because he revealed to me that he was in love with MY twin sister and worst enemy. This complicated things a lot, but try not to let it affect me. Then my birthday, 16, arrived and the three of us, Jack, his brother and I, met to celebrate it, and it was a day full of drama. We went up to my house for a moment to get change, and Jack gave us presents for me and my sister. It was very uncomfortable to see that the boy you've been liking for years is in love with your twin sister. Then we went and started walking, and in the place where we were going to have dinner, we met Dylan. Jack was angry with him, and so was I, and we decided to go eat somewhere else, but because there were parties in my town, everything was full, and in a bad mood, we went to where Dylan was. Luckily, he went and ordered the pizzas to go to eat where we played basketball, but the pizza was uncut, and we had to go up to Jack's house where Jack and his brother argued about whether or not to go home also. Because Jack's brother was very stressed because the day next was the first year of his university career. I could see how Jack let a tear fall while the three of us were eating pizza. Little by little, the fight got smaller, but often a birthday and farewell to my other best friend and possible brother-in-law. When everything calmed down, it was already 11 at night, and Jack offered to accompany me downstairs. Jack almost fell down the road, and luckily I grabbed him from the waist. His skin was so soft that I never wanted to peel off. Jack hugged me and apologized for the most unexpected birthday. The next day, I saw Jack again this time, and the first time, just the two of us, like a date. We were talking about several things, including our feelings, him for my sister and I, not be able to tell him the truth. I made up a pretty big lie, that I liked my friend and classmate Clara seriously when I was about to tell him my feelings. We got a little closer, and in the end, he kissed me on the cheek for the second time in his life, and the classes started again. We began to distance ourselves more, and all my classmates began to bully me. We stopped meeting and seeing each other, and his little brother was born in November. His brother studied at the university, and we didn't see each other much anymore, at least not like before. And since they were my only friends, it destroyed me. Christmas comes, and a plot twist takes place. A girl confesses that she's in love with him, and when I thought it was the end, he rejects her. Luckily, I felt a weight on my shoulders, and we went out together again to play basketball. But behind the lie that I liked Clara, the ball got bigger. And I said to myself, I can't postpone this any longer. I told my friends that I was going to confess to Clara, and I took the opportunity to tell Jack that I needed to talk to him. I shook his hand and shyly told him that I liked him a lot, and it was to be expected that I refused because he is not gay and he worried about me because of my broken heart. I also confessed that they bullied me and told me to tell my parents. I don't have a nice relationship with them, so I couldn't tell the whole truth. Unfortunately, the story ends here, but I'm sure there are more surprises to come smiling face with hearts. Will I finally be able to conquer the boy I was in love with for 4 years? Vote for an update. Love at first glance. The party was off the chain. Always a big mansion party. Multiple dance floors. Women in gorgeous dresses. Men dressed in tuxedos. And then he would show up, Greg. I always wondered what he did when he walked through the house. Through the dance floors, there was a group of good fellas following him. They always kept a perimeter. The back room was always kept under heightened security. Always 2 giant, built bodyguards in front of the room door. Nobody knew what was behind it, except for Greg and his crew. I was dressed rather glamorous that evening. I always knew Greg had a thing for cute girls. I was just hoping maybe as he walked by, he'd notice me enough to catch his attention. I put my illustrious smelling perfume on a little extra, because I know he's a sucker for captivating scents. He just walked in the door. Here he comes. He's about to walk by. I raised my hair as I danced slowly in his direction. I swayed my hips to advance further in his direction. It worked. He noticed me. I motioned with my finger for him to come sweep me off my feet to the sound of the beat. Despite his mysteriousness, his smile towards me is authentic. He is literally enjoying himself dancing with me right now. His friends join in and start dancing to the progressive beats. He also made sure everyone around him knew that I was dancing with him. I find that so sexy. I didn't want the song to end. He always had a look of professionalism, a poker face if you will, while walking to his back room in past parties. I figured he'd want to leave after the song finally ended, to attend his business in the back. Even if that was all the attention I got from him in a lifetime, I'd be so happy. But then the unthinkable happened. He grabbed my arm and said, "Come to the back room with me. Have you ever wondered what's back there?" I looked at him with an odd stare. "You can't be serious, are you? You want to take me in the back room? But no one is ever allowed back there. Why would you want to take me?" "Because I trust you," he responded. Oh my gosh. I said yes in a heartbeat. I told him I definitely want to see what's back there. I've seen him go in this room before, only with his group of people, as nobody that I know of is even allowed back there. He took me by the hand and started to guide me, as I was his date for the evening. All of a sudden, I had been blushing nonstop. This man is walking around with me. There are so many other girls staring at me right now, but I don't even care. You all had your chance. I've been coming to these mansion parties for over a year now, and the little girl inside me is so curious about what's back there and being next to him. As we approach the bodyguards, they clear the way for Greg and his crew of 5. He turns around, looks at me and says, "Are you ready?" And oh my gosh, he kissed my cheek. He reinforced my level of excitement and smashed all nervousness. "You should feel special," he says. "I wouldn't do this for just any girl." He grinned. Greg then opens the door, and I simply could not believe my eyes. It was an entirely new part of the mansion. There were elevated dance floors on the left and right, some on higher levels. There were people dancing with glow sticks, dressed in incredible wardrobes. The music was spot on. My face lit up in excitement. He takes me by both hands, like he's excited to run with me, and guides me through the first dance floor. The music was flawless, had such a good electric vibe to it. We were dancing strong. My heart opened up to him. In that second, he defibrillated me to a whole new level of utopia. Does he do this with all the girls, or just me? Could I really possibly be this attractive to him? The song came to a slow part of the song. "This, my dear, is where you belong." He smiles. "What are you drinking? Let's go grab a cocktail." I am so incredibly speechless right now. "A Cape Cod, please." I blurt out to the bartender. I cannot believe there is just a continuation of the party, but back here, I always wondered, and everyone I've talked to always asked, but nobody knew. I sputtered to Greg. "Let's just put it this way. You're now a VIP of the VIPs, miss." Greg suavely says, while reaching for my hand, "I'm Miranda." I responded, "Miss Miranda, a beautiful name, you know? I'm pretty sure the first girl I ever kissed, in kindergarten I believe, her name was Miranda." He smiles. "She must have been a lucky girl." I smirked back at him. I was a lucky guy, just like I am now, Miranda. He winked. What could I do? I smiled. I smiled like a fool. This man, this prestigious, gorgeous man, is looking at me, and pay me attention like this. He takes my breath away. I started to reach for my purse to pay for my drink. "Honey, your drinks are on the house, anytime." Greg says as he places his hand on mine. I feel stupid right now. My cheeks are showing it. Yep, I'm lighting up like a Christmas decoration, aren't I? Why are you being so nice to me? I finally muttered to him. I'll never forget this like it was yesterday. He looks at me in my eyes and says, "I noticed you the same time you noticed me. Darling, I've been walking through every back room for a long time, looking for you. You had me with your first glance." He really knows how to take my breath away. I certainly didn't feel threatened, but I could have ran at that point. A good part of me wanted to. Honestly, I'm not ready for a shooting star to light my heart on fire. But why wouldn't I be? I come dressed for this moment for a year, just for him to notice me. He's beautiful. I love him, and I don't even know him. His solemn smile makes me, I can't help it, as I'm a magnet of his attraction. His light radiates through me when I hold his hand. Damn it, I love him. I love him so much. I don't care, I'm all in. Do you believe in love at first sight? I gently asked. It wasn't always will be love at first sight with you, Miranda. He interlocks his fingers with mine. From that moment on, He had me. I became his princess, his love for life, and we danced on endless dance floors from then on. One of my teachers in high school was insufferable, and I owe her everything. Mrs. D, horrid, awful bully of a woman. We had graduation projects, and I had mine almost completed. Then she took over, and she hated it. She forced me to do the whole thing over again despite the fact that I did everything right. She just didn't like the subject material. What I ended up picking as a last-minute throwaway job shadow turned out to be my dream job. So I applied to major in college, and I went to a tiny university with a great program. I needed an apartment, and I found a couple people looking for a third roommate. One of my roommates introduced me to his friend. See, we dated through the last few years of college. Then after graduation, he found a job in a little truck stop town. I needed a job, but there was nothing nearby for my degree. So I worked lower-level jobs that covered the bills. I got a job at a truck stop, where I met B and K, an engaged couple who quickly became my best friends. My marriage to C fell apart. We're still close friends, but didn't mesh as a married couple. B and K had an old Xbox, one they weren't using after each getting Series X. They wanted me to play video games with them, instead of just sitting home alone on my PlayStation. They got me playing Conan Exiles with their friends, who became my friends. One friend and I clicked immediately, talking about everything, helping each other through horrible breakups and bad online dating matches. We had so much in common, and were great friends. Then I realized I had feelings for him. Shortly after, he realized the same about me. I fell in love with one of my closest friends, who treats me so well and loves me so much, and is so much better of a partner than I could ever dream to having. I feel so cared about and so wanted. He puts in so much effort to show me he loves me. I don't even know how to process how much he loves me. After a long road of being hurt over and over, I was so afraid to let myself fall for him, but he can break through any wall I have. He's believed in us so much that it's infectious, and I can't help but no longer care about repeating that pain, because I know it's never going to happen. We'll make it through anything. We're planning on spending the rest of our lives fixing up cars and motorcycles, having adventures, and playing video games. All because a bitchy control freak teacher got me interested in a career. I met a guy in college whose own career took me to a map where I met some friends who got me gaming with their friends. And that's how I met my forever person. So thanks, Mrs. D, you miserable hag. I owe you everything. Found my kindergarten fiancé, and it's a wonderful feeling. So here I am, male 37, married and father of a lovely toddler. My life has been a long way of falling and getting up again. Like with so many people, my autism probably did not help. I never made friends easily, or at least, I do not very quickly consider people friends, even if I like them, and I was also not that great at maintaining friendships. Over the last decade, I met my wife, got married, got a steady job, and became a father. And then, less than a week ago, I thought to myself, whatever happened to V? V, random initial, was a girl I met back in kindergarten. We lived in the same neighborhood, and were about the same age. And somehow, we did get along quite well there. That's how it started. I remember her being brought in on the day that was my birthday, that kind of stuff. At 4 years old, I left kindergarten and went to the first grade of elementary school. Over here, we have 8 grades, or groups actually, with the first 2 grades always put together. I got there first, and while it was a little scary, I had been nagging to my mom about when I could finally go to school for weeks, so I did not feel bad. It also helped that a boy from my street was in the same class in the 2nd grade. V joined the 1st grade some time later and got into my class. Of course, it was scary for her too, and I do remember her sitting there with tears in her eyes, with me sitting next to her in the circle, comforting her. I bet her mother even put her next to me, because sitting next to a friend is always less scary. I remembered a book my mom read to me about a boy going to school, comforting a crying girl who was scared. So I started to stroke her back, like toddlers do, saying my mom I would comfort her like the boy in the book did. I can't remember when it started, but of course, being very, very young and playing together a lot, at some point we decided that we would get married when we were grown up. My original plan to move in with my widowed grandmother was not a problem. V, and I would just marry and live with my poor lone grandmother. One day, Grandma, who lived far away, was visiting us and got me from school. I introduced her to V and said, "We are going to marry when we are grown up." Grandma, never minding to play along with child games, said, "Oh, so you are not marrying me anymore?" And I replied, "Oh, no." When I said that, my brains were smaller course, so I was dumb. And I did consider V the most beautiful girl in class, even though the story does not mention whether anyone agreed. I even had a contender for some time, until he simply decided, "Meh, V is going to marry you." So I decided to marry H. Yes, we stuck together during the first 2 grades and 3rd grade. Well, not always. I did not mind her playing with other girls on the playground. As I said, I did not make friends easily and just played a lot on my own. A lot easier in my eyes. Yes, my mother was very worried about my social development. Why? But of everyone that I went playing at home with at the time, V did remain a very frequent choice, whether at my place or hers. I do remember things we did, like watching The Rescuers and Fleischer's Gulliver's Travels. I got invited for her birthday parties, and she to mine. I still have some pictures of that. Over the course of the 3rd grade, our teacher noticed that I was not only developing a little different in the social aspect. Back in the 2nd grade, a mother volunteering at school to read for us had already come to mind and said, "I think he's able to read already," which the well-meaning but old-fashioned 2nd grade teacher never even noticed. Our 3rd grade teacher was a lot younger and noticed that I was speeding through all the work rapidly and took action. And after some time, it was decided that I could function better at a school where I could develop at a more individual pace, and my parents, reluctantly, had me go to a Montessori school. The step was not easy. I enjoyed the work, well, most of it, but had a hard time adjusting into the new class. Years later, my parents told me that they actually didn't think I was at home in that school, not because of the teachings or the teachers, but because the kids were just not my kind of kids. Around Pentecost during that first year, I reread the book my former 3rd grade class had given me and start cry because I missed them all so much. So much that when my new school had a day off and the old one had not, my mom suggested that I pay them a visit. All in all, it makes the wish that V wrote for me in that book a bit ironic, for she hoped I would make a lot of new friends there. After that day, I did not get in touch with kids from the old school again, finally adjusting at least a little and making a few friends at the new school. But that did not stop me from keeping a bit in contact with V. I again invited her to my birthday party in 4th grade, and probably also the 5th. I still went playing at her place, and vice versa from time to time. I made her Christmas cards, which I then delivered in person, and probably also Valentine cards. I do remember giving her a rose for Valentine one year. We still said we were going to marry. We sneakily gave each other a kiss, sometimes. Oh! And whenever we were on the phone, V always sighed and said, "My little sister is singing again. V loves B. V loves B." And then at some point, it just stopped. There was no fight, no breakup. Whatever. We just saw each other less and less frequently. And finally, not at all. From the eye, from the heart, it seems. A few years after elementary school, I heard that V and her family had moved to somewhere far away. Something inside me said, "Oh, pity," but I knew it had no one but myself to blame for the lost contact. And I also knew that, well, kids just do that, just as much as kids decide to get married in 20 years' time. High school wasn't always easy either. I still didn't make friends easily, and, well, you know how teenagers are? Not very subtle, that's a fact. I never comfortable around boys acting tough and couldn't handle teasing. While most teenagers oppose their parents and the teachers, I felt more inclined to oppose my friends. In hindsight, I might have been more comfortable with some fellow classmates who were not necessarily friends, but at least kind. Coincidentally, they often happened to be girls. Or other awkward boys, of course. University wasn't much easier. In fact, I made no friends there at all. New friends did not come until I had a job that attracted a lot of other college students my age, who were just as nerdy as me. Well, they did not all have the same awkward persona, but at least we shared nerdy interests, and that helped a lot. There was also very little shame about being nerdy in that workplace. Everyone was a misfit, so you had to be a huge misfit to actually stand out in a negative way. The years went by. I was in my mid-20s and never had a real girlfriend, unless we count V. My mother and my sister had a tendency to tease me a little about that time. They didn't mean any real harm, but I felt very awkward about it when my grandma brought up the aforementioned anecdote. I felt very embarrassed that she brought that up, remembering how everyone used to laugh when I said I would become a grandpa alive with grandma. In desperation, I went on dating websites, which did not really improve my frustration. Had a crush now and then, which always turned out to be a mistake and never grew into anything. My first French kiss was with a female friend who felt sorry for me during a game of spin the bottle. Finally, age 27, I met a very nice, loving lady who showed a very genuine interest in me, which resulted in me becoming her boyfriend, me moving in with her, and finally us getting married. I do remember telling her about how everyone used to laugh when I said I wanted to move in with my grandma, who had passed away in the meantime. When I said it was stupid, she said, "No, it was very sweet. You wanted to care for your grandma." Finally, making me realize that while the children laughed at me as if it was silly, the adults probably laughed because it was silly but also very cute. Years went by. Again, we got married, and after a long while, we finally had our dear baby girl. But last week on Monday, I suddenly thought, whatever happened to V? I had wondered several times over the years, but never acted on it. Suddenly I thought, why not? In this day and age, some searching might get you some result. So I Googled a bit, looked a bit, found some candidates, since I was not 100% sure how to spell her first and last name. It didn't take long for me to find only one person to be the realistic candidate. That was on Monday. On Tuesday, I did a little more searching and confirmed my suspicion. I had found V. I was very sure of it. Now what to do? I took some time to think. On Thursday, I sent her a message asking if it was really her. No response on that day or Friday. It nagged me, and I was thinking of alternate ways to contact. Maybe she barely looked at that profile. Maybe the messages got stuck in suggestions or spam. Or maybe she just didn't want contact with a weirdo looking her up after so many years. But my common sense told me to give it some time first. On Saturday morning, she replied. It was her, and she reacted positively. That was yesterday. Today, I feel weird. The whole week, I have been imagining me chatting to her about my life and being very curious about hers. Overexcited, overtly enthusiastic. But today, I went up to my wife and started crying. Crying because I felt sad, happy, and nostalgic, all at the same time. I have never bothered to look up the few friends from those years that I still remember from first and last name. I have never cared. But somehow, V never fully disappeared from my mind, even if I didn't think of certain memories for years. Apparently, she was far more important to me than I realized. She was not just a childhood sweetheart. She was a very bright element in the difficult years I had concerning my friendships. I might not have had the hardest childhood out there, but it wasn't always easy. Thinking of the memories I have of V make the memories of those years a little happier. I'm overwhelmed by these feelings at the moment. I cried, I laughed, I smiled. I have no idea whether I will even see her in real life and whether we're going to be friends ever again. But just finding her after more than a quarter of a century, it feels as if I found a little piece of myself again. From hatred and spite to happiness, I, 30M, have thought long about sharing this story, because except the end is one of the not-so-happy ones. My parents came from Finland to Germany with me when I was a little boy around the age of 6. They came to Germany because my mom was German and met my dad on a business trip he had. They fell in love despite my mom having kids on her own. FFW, they moved together. My dad is also fully accepted by my half-siblings, and then I was born. I've had a lovely childhood, loving parents and siblings I never want to miss. FFW, my mother's side, Gramps died and left at a house in Germany. And for my parents and my half-siblings, a journey went to Germany. I've had the privilege to grow up as a son of 2 countries, but whatever lovely possibility this was soon for a long time destroyed by me growing up and having undiagnosed autism. My school life was hell. I was bullied left, right, and center for being the odd kid, the weird oddball, the nerd, and so many other things. I was depressed, had zero game, no friends, and despite working my ass off to learn German to find friends, no one wanted to play with me except my siblings. I was sad, very sad. My dad and my mom, may she rest in peace, always try to tell me that they're proud of me, being a smart kid, being a relatively crafty kid. This helped, but rather minuscule, because I felt shame. Shame for not blending in. Shame for having no friends to show my parents that I try my darndest to blend in. Middle to high school, it's both in one in Germany. Was hell incarnate. Heck, I learned brawling better as algebra, counting the amounts. But I never started these. I found a few friends there, the loners, the oddballs like I was, and for the first time in Germany, my life didn't look dire. We spent a lot of time together doing the normal kid things, playing video games, ripping MP3s, sharing rad music. Man, I love death and black metal. And I joined an LARP community and also was volunteer helping out at a small comic shop that sold these cool 40K miniatures. I also got along good with our local garage owner, where I made and aced my apprenticement later on. Still write the old man and call him here and there. He's a genuinely good, polished guy. But a gearhead that sparked my technical engine-fueled autism so hard that I ended up working later half my life there till COVID hit. Life was shit, but not so shit as a socially awkward kid. Anyway, when I was not under hoods or in the comic shop, I was in school or playing video games on LAN parties. Doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, I guess it wasn't. But I still wasn't popular. I still was shunned. And the only thing keeping me from deleting myself was basically spite and hatred. I simply do not want to die before the ones that shunned me. Till the age of 19, I had no girlfriend. And alas, my first one cheated on me with two guys, and I met them in the middle of the thing, roses and chocolate in hand, because I thought that's a normal thing to do. The second one, well, not better. Whilst not cheating, I walked straight into the trap of untherapied and unmedicated BPD. Jesus, not a single week without a fight. But I had zero self-esteem nor any social game to at least understand when to quit. Came like it had to came. Collapsed, and my, at the time, 22-year-old ass was hauled to the local hospital. The doc kinda noticed, I think, and took his time, nailed into my brain to get my ass out of the relationship. Thanks to my work buddies and my boss at the garage. They kept me busy and sent me to every workshop, every additional graduation course, and baseline saved me a lot of hassle with the fallout. Fallout was, she tried turning every friend I had against me, and thankfully the friends I had knew me to a degree that they could debunk this shit. Yet again, damage was done. And I was, for those that did not know me, a twisted maniac. I sought help and got my screening for autism relatively quick, and then it finally clicked in my brain. Back at the times, it was Asperger's, a mild form of autism. Today, it incorporated in the ASD autism spectrum disease. Needless to say, I saw the need to do therapy, to learn how to think and learn how to interact with normal people. Third, one wasn't such a big one. Depression was simply too much to handle, and both our issues were piling up, and we parted ways peacefully. Hard, but not scarring. Fourth, was kind of like the second one, and well, again, I was a stupid idiot. I was at the time 25. It was 2020. It was COVID soon, and our garage had to close, since we weren't pulling big jobs, and we were all scraping by. Boss told us that he will close in 3 months. Pay our salaries for this time, but we're free to write applications, and gave each of us a recommendation letter. My world broke. I understood why, I understood the reason, but still this was like a gunshot to the stomach. I remember going home, downing half a vodka bottle and being sad and depressed, and as kind of irony has it, I had a little Space Marine at home on my desk. That grossly painted fucker reminded me on something. I loved knights and heroes as a kid. I desperately wanted to be a good guy, to help others and do fucking good stuff. And bam, my brain clicked like a colt. I wrote an application as a paramedic, and since some customers of the garage knew other people, I got accepted and trained. Cost a lot, but worth it. Amidst the chaos and the self-loathing of 2022, the tremendous amount of work, the sheer insanity, I met my now long-term GF. I was at a metal concert, booze as a sailor, face deep in a burger, and had a pack of cigs ready to grab. There she was, red hair, a backpatch of Gorgroth, a smile worth killing for, the face of an angel, and in short, she made my primal ape brain go BRRRT. The thing that made me talk to her was a radiating awkwardness going off from her, like a radioactive fallout. Inebriated as I was, and stupid zero flirt game that I had, I told her, hey fucking awesome backpatch, I know them and have 2 CDs of them at home. Guess what? I didn't get pepper sprayed, joking here, and we started talking over the evening. Turned out we had so many things in common. She's a gamer, a crafty woman, and fucking loves LARP and reenactment. Needless to say, we started dating. And man, Eve not only found a partner, Eve found an equally autistic best friend, loving future wife. Funny as hell and smart as all heck girl in a random concert, in the most arse-backwards, most rancid metal pub in Germany. We both ran COVID and speedrun power couple goals. We moved together after 2 rounds of the virus. Here we are, June of 2025, and I am writing this here on Reddit. I'm happy. We're marrying hopefully one day. I think after 3 years together one can think about that. I have a cool job, a job that pumps me that immensely and tingles all the right neurons, a wonderful girl, a peaceful, although rented, home, and somebody that's not only understanding, but we're each other's best friends, the shared brain cell, and most of all, she's really the most awesome person I know. Just wanted to get this off my chest. Lads, keep looking. From this, I learned a very, very valuable lesson. She a best friend, but no partner, out the window. She a partner, but no best friend, out the window. She best friend and partner. Fucking jackpot. This, I hope, although short little story, might make your day and hopefully let you see, although it might seem hopeless. Sometimes the right thing comes when you at least expect it, and are boozed and face deep into a burger. The day I found myself, I had this very good friend. He wasn't in a band or he wasn't an artist, but he's very good at guitar. He had a collection of other guitars, since it's other part of their family. His father's side of their family were musicians. He was really sweet and kind to me. He always told me that his dream was impossible because his mother doesn't want him to be a musician. She wants him to be a doctor. Well, it's kind of an Asian thing, since their whole bloodline are doctors and smart people. He somehow inspired me to keep holding on to my dream. I told him I wanted to be a psychologist. My family wasn't there to support me. I had someone there for me. Him, I always ran up to me about my problems. Because I'm kind of suicidal, he always told me to hold on and still live life. He told me that life always has trials and challenges, so we just have to face them. A few weeks later, he called me. He told me that he wanted to quit, that he was tired. I told him, hey, what's wrong? Remember what you told me. Please stop this. You never told me about this. Can we please talk about this first? How can you be very sure about this? I asked him if we could meet up tonight. We talked for a few hours at this nearby cafe at our favorite city. I kind of started to catch feelings for him. We just had this emotional connection. When we met up at the cafe, we were planning to go to a faraway place, like just somewhere you can stop thinking we planned the date, July 6, 2017. I agreed without asking permission from my aunt, who was my guardian at that time. July 6, 2017, the day after my birthday. July 6, 2017, the day after my birthday. I wasn't able to text him or update him where I was, or if we were going to go or not. July 5th, 2017, my birthday. I was at the mall with my friends, drinking lots of smoothies and lattes. I was deciding if I was going to wait for his text or just message him if we were going to go tomorrow already, if it was confirmed. At the end of the day, probably around 1 or 2 a.m., I still haven't received his text. I message him, hi. Sorry we couldn't go there today. I was busy with my friends since it's my birthday, and I probably can't go with you tomorrow. I'm too tired right now. How are you? Maybe we can go some other time if that's fine with you. I fell asleep because I was tired. I wasn't able to see if he texted me back or have seen the message. The next day, I woke up. The first thing I had in mind is if he'd seen my text or if he replied yet. I checked my phone. The only message I got was a message from the group chat of my friends sending the photos of last night. I went out of my room. My aunt wasn't there. I found guitar on the couch. I didn't own one, though. I wondered where it came from, if my aunt gave it to me or just bought it. It had a paper sticked on it. It was a message from him. He said he ended it all. He told me to keep his favorite guitar for him. I kept the guitar in my room. I noticed that he put his signature written on the guitar. I cried the whole day. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed home the whole day. I messaged him saying and telling him that I appreciated that he was always there for me when I needed him, for always telling me to stay alive and keep trying no matter how hard life gets. I thought about why he ended his life, even though he told me to keep living even when life gets hard. I asked his family if he ever said anything about that, or if he was acting strange or anything. His family said that he was acting normal and nothing was wrong. They were still caring about him. I started learning guitar with my music teacher, since she was so nice to me and her teaching skills really helped me. Even if she isn't my current teacher now in my grade, I still go. Years ago, my friends bought me a fish because I had a bad day. I saw on a comment on some subreddit about my boyfriend bought me a plant in case I was sad, and thought I should share this story somewhere, because it's one of my favorite memories. Years ago, when I was a senior in high school, my friends and I were set to go to state conference for some club. It was a weekend kind of thing. Hotel room out of town, whole 9 yards. It got off to a rocky start. Some old lady in a giant truck hit my little car in a Walmart parking lot just a couple hours before the bus left. So I was held up talking with cops about what happened. And of course, she never faced any repercussions, but I digress. I missed the bus and fortunately found alternate arrangements with someone's mom. And by the time I got there, I had a killer migraine. I've been medicated for migraine since I was a kid. So I knew there was nothing I could do at that point and told the school sponsor I'd be staying in my room that night. I took a good hard nap and woke up when everyone else got back to the hotel. My friends tried to enter quietly but woke me up in the process, and I asked how things went. One of them stepped forward with a Taco Bell to-go bag and explained they knew I didn't have dinner. So they got one of the parents to stop and get me food, already incredible. But it took less than a few minutes for me to realize my best friend, he still is to this day, had his hands behind his back. I asked him what was up, and they all started talking at once, explaining that they were worried about me and felt bad that I missed out on everything that day. And just in case I wasn't feeling better the next day, they wanted me to have company in the hotel room. I don't know how, but they convinced one of the parents to stop at a pet store and got me a bed of fish. They knew I had several others, in separate tanks of course, and they wanted to cheer me up, so they bought a betta and fish food to tide us over until the next night when we'd be back home. The rest of the weekend, we all collectively hid this fish from the school sponsor and anyone who would narc about him. My favorite part of this story is the hours of conference we had after we checked out of the hotel. When I had to go on stage and accept a state award, I handed the fish to some freshmen I barely knew and said, "I need you to do me a favor. Put this under your seat and don't tell anyone." As I walked away, he yelled, "Grace, what the F-U-C-K?" We successfully got the fish home. I set up a full tank, and he lived for a little over 2 years. For those curious, I still have one better now that I live alone. I have a lot less space to work with. The rest of my dear fish had their own tanks until they passed, and I decided to downsize after they went. So I only have one now. Lampshade is just over a year old and has a beautiful 20G tank forest. I don't talk to some of those friends anymore, but I hope they know how much that meant to me. Had my first kiss. It was amazing. Hello, guys. I just had my first kiss the other day, and I want to share my experience with someone, so I thought this community would be a great place to do so. First up, some infos about me. I'm 18 and never had any experience with a relationship or things like making out a party or so, but 2 to 3 months ago, I met this wonderful girl while riding my motorcycle. We talked a bit, and from the first words, I knew she was the one. We set up a meet to ride together, and we had a very good time together. So we set up some more dates, and the more I knew her better, I thought more and more that I want to reach more than just a friendship with this girl. After a couple times of seeing each other, I invited her to a house party of a friend of mine, where I had the plan to take it a step further and try to get even closer to her. I told my homeboys about her, and they tried to convince me to kiss her, or at least tried to. So we went to that party, and everything was great until one fatal thing. One of my friends had snus with him, these little nicotine pouches you put under your lip. And he gave us both one, but the bad thing apart from it being nicotine was that it was very strong, 50 milligrams, but we still put them in because we didn't really care there. That's where the bad part really started. After around 2 to 3 minutes of taking it started to kick in for her, and she got really sick, and I had to take her to the bathroom, and the rest you can imagine for yourself. I took care of her, and she took about 5 hours to recover, and we still had a great party after that. But the timing, or at least a given setup, wasn't the best, so I didn't take a step. After that night, we met some more, and I still didn't have the balls to try to kiss her, but yesterday I hosted a party with my friends and her, and she also took one of her friends with her, and we all had a great time together. All of them knew that I liked her, including her friend, so everyone was rooting for me to do something this night. As the party was already going 1 or 2 hours, I took her in my arm as we sat right next to each other on a couch. After a bit, she started resting her head on my chest, and I started petting her head and back. This went on for about 2 hours, and more people started going home because it was getting really late. And at the end, it was only me, a friend of mine, and her friend. All of a sudden, my friend said obvious as fuck that he had to go out to gas some fresh air, and 1 minute later, her friend did also. Her friend told me earlier that night that she liked me very much and talked about me the whole day, and that she hoped for me to kiss her that night. So after the others left alone, I thought to myself that this was my chance, and I had to do it now or never. So I gathered all of my courage and went in for the kiss. I took my hand around her ear/cheek/neck and moved my lips to hers. I didn't even realize it in that moment, but she moved closer with her lips too, and all of a sudden we were making out. It was my first time, so I was a bit overwhelmed at first, but then I just went in, and it was the best time of my life. We kissed really passionate for a really long and pleasant time. After we finished, I looked her in the eyes again, and she was smiling like I never saw her before. I was happy, and I think she was too. Shortly after that, the other two came back, and I looked them in the eyes and smiled, so they knew that I did it. Shortly after, like 30 minutes later, she looked me deeply in the eyes again, and we started making out again, and it was even better than the first time. 1 or 2 went by, and she had to get home, so her big brother came to get her home, and he took all of us home. She and I sat on the back seats with her friend, and she rested on my chest again. I had to get out. She took my head once more and kissed me once more really nice and whispered to me that it was the best night of her life, and I thought so too. That night, I laid in bed and was happy like never before. Yeah, so that was my story. I am still as happy as yesterday. And when we meet the next time, I will ask her out to be my girlfriend because I think it's the right time, and her friend told me that now she is only waiting for me to do it. I would also appreciate any advice for asking her out. Thank you guys that I can share my story here without having to be shy about it. To full by going roller skating on my first Hinge date and breaking my wrist. So I recently decided to get back on dating apps for the first time in a while. You know the mentality. Maybe this time will be different. Third time's a charm, right? I had literally just finished setting up my Hinge profile when I agreed to meet someone for my first date. The plan was a roller rink. Cute, nostalgic, very rom-com. Within minutes, I fell in what can only be described as a spectacularly ungraceful way and landed on my wrist. Because it was a first date, I did the completely logical thing and pretended I was fine. Even after the date, I continued to muscle through the injury with some delusional hope that it was just a minor sprain, and I needed to toughen up and not be a baby about it. So, being the resourceful adult I am, I bought a brace off Amazon, iced it every couple of hours, and did my best to limit using it. Then a couple days, and I apparently decided it was time to transition into a DIY physical therapy phase, attempting things like texting with both thumbs, holding objects, folding laundry, and practicing rotating/bending the damn thing. Talk about the most irresponsible circumstance for wishful thinking and home remedy solutions. Fast forward a week of swelling and pain later. On my birthday night, while celebrating with my roommates, I took the brace off after the swelling had finally gone down enough to actually see it and get their opinions, because by now the pain was increasing and becoming sharper. I also found it alarming that the swelling had gone down, but my wrist still looked a bit crooked. My friend who skateboards and is unfortunately very familiar with what fractured joints look like took one look at my wrist and immediately said, "Yeah, that's a fracture if I've ever seen one." Turns out he was right. The next morning I finally went to the ER where an x-ray confirmed my wrist is definitely broken and angled at that. The doctor explained that the wrist has what they call a dinner fork deformity, which is apparently medical terminology for your wrist is bent in a way wrists are not supposed to bend. Now I need surgery since it's already been about a week since the injury. So my first hinge date didn't lead to romance. It led to a splint and an orthopedic referral. Honestly, I'm still trying to decide if this is a sign from the universe or just an extremely accurate metaphor for my dating life. And yes, before anyone asks, I did start a fundraiser to help cover surgery costs. And if I'm being completely honest, partly because this ridiculous story deserves to be told. And to answer another question I know will come up. No, I haven't told my former date. And no, a second one is not on the books. So technically my return to dating apps lasted exactly one date before sending me to the ER. At this rate, my next first date will involve chairs, helmets, and possibly bubble wrap. But I think for now I'll be refraining from dating apps, at least the next 12 weeks. TLDR, went roller skating on my first hinge date, broke my wrist, convinced myself it was a sprain for a week, discovered on my birthday that it's actually fractured and crooked, and now I need surgery. FR, beware of this guy. This happened in 2023, after breaking up with my ex. It took me more than a year to finally took on the courage to know someone new. But to my horror, it was one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my entire life. Please sit back and read the entire story. Mid-2023, I've met this guy via one of the dating apps. We chatted for a while before meeting in person. The meetup was alright. He seems to be a decent guy with a good career, able to manage his finances well, know what he wants in life, shared a bit about his past, polite toward women. I thought I got a good catch. Since then, we texted almost every day. The conversation wasn't a typical kind, but it was more in depth, as if he really wants to know me as a person. I was glad, and I'm always looking forward to our next meetup. But after a few times of dinner dates, it starts to turn into dates at home. He will find reasons to bring me back to his home, and I was so naive that I eventually went back with him. We had a few times. Eventually, he seems to give me the cold shoulder. The frequency of texting decreased, and he stopped initiating meetups. I kinda knew he probably lost interest in me, and we ended up in a bad situation. After that, I was sharing this dating story with one of my friends, and found out that one of our mutual friends actually once dated him before. She shared that this guy was full of red flags. He was a narcissistic guy, good at manipulating people, always try to put people down, so he is high up there, trying to impress people with his achievements, but TBH, it was nothing much. She fell into his trap because he was always portraying this good boy vibe. The more we talked about it, more horror stories were being revealed. I guess that's the cons of living in a small country, whereby there will be mutual friends/acquaintances here and there. So this guy had been playing with many girls' feelings, fooling around and sleeping around since 2022. He will use the same old tactics. Portray a nice guy look, asking the girl out, have alcohol after a meal, eventually brought the girl back to his place to have. Usually the connection between him and the girl, it will end between 1 to 2 months. And his reason will always be, there is no connection, and we are not suitable for long term. His dating profile was actually being exposed by someone on another social media back then in 2022. Not only he tried to sleep with different girls in Singapore, he will also sleep with girls in Malaysia because he claims that Malaysian women prefer Singaporean men. Bruh? Apparently. There were quite a few victims, and the youngest was only 20-ish. He mentioned to one of the victims that he preferred younger girls. He also said that it's okay to use dating apps even if he is in a relationship. Recently, he was being exposed that he had been going into Malaysia, frequently just to find new girls to have fun with. If not, he will reach out to the girls that he still stayed in contact with. TBH. He must be so free and have all the time to be traveling back and forth just to hook up with different girls. Not only that, he shared different stories to different girls and brought these girls back to his multiple different homes. All of us gave him a nickname. A f***ing man slut. He's just like a sex addict. How desperate can he be that he is sleeping around since 2022 and still doing it now in 2025? But claiming that he wants to find a wife. He need to get himself fixed. Like seriously. Someone was also sharing that this guy was that secondary school teacher who mocked at his student work and posted on Instagram. Ended up, he got disciplinary action. But he told some of the girls that he left the school by choice, wasn't by decision. The truth only revealed until someone shared the link to that piece of news. Currently, he is still teaching, but in tuition centers. Not sure which tuition center is he in right now, because it will be a horror to parents, knowing that their kids are being taught by such a teacher, with such character and past. Knowing that he's a teacher, but he is preying on younger girls. This is just utterly disgusting. He probably just enjoys the process of getting different girls to sleep with little to no effort, thinking that he is smart enough to get away with it, or nobody will find out when Singapore is so small. He is just an overconfident, arrogant, narcissistic guy who should just rot alone. A story of fate, true love, sadness, and hope. Long. This is a true story. I have it in book format for my own creativity. Preface, no one ever hears the man's side. I fought with everything I had for her. For us, what followed is a story of hope, heartbreak, addiction, and redemption. I'm calling her Jaina, and I'm James. Locations are anonymized. This is our story of love, hope, substance addiction, and sadness. Part 1. Stars aligned in August 2024. I was at my lowest point, isolated, addicted, and ready to die. Then came a message on Reddit. Jaina asked to join my Discord server. I was a server owner for drug addicts not to feel lonely. From the moment I read her words, I felt something. A voice inside me said, "You need to talk to her." Our first connection was light, casual. But on August 6th, we opened up to each other. It was easy, natural. By August 7th, after a brutal day where my own brother called me a disgrace, she called me for the first time. I hadn't even seen her face yet, but hearing her voice pulled me out of the dark. We talked for 24 hours straight. I joked, "If you live near me, I put a ring on your finger." Then on August 8th, everything changed. I woke up and checked my phone. She sent me a photo, plane ticket. She was flying 6,500 kilometers to see me. I was stunned, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, I wanted to live. Over the following weeks, we grew closer. I began rebuilding relationships with my family. Smiling again, we had ups and downs, including a brief breakup. But we found our way back to each other. And on September 4th, 2024, she landed. I waited at the airport with a stuffed sloth. She loved sloths. When I saw her coming down the escalator, all doubt vanished. She was real. She was beautiful. I knew then. I wanted to marry her. Part 2. Addicted Hearts Our Love was real, but so were our demons. We met through a server for addicts. Mine was meth. Hers was cocaine, due to health issues. She couldn't keep using cocaine and asked about meth. I said yes. This is the biggest regret of my life, and still beat myself up every day for it. Despite addiction, those first weeks were incredible. We connected on every level. I didn't believe in soulmates until her. I proposed with a ring, completely sober, and she said yes. But not long after, the past started surfacing. She was wondering about my past, old relationships, lies I told to protect myself emotionally. She demanded full honesty. This was the first time she ever snapped on me. I wasn't prepared. I panicked, overshared, lied further just to stop the interrogation. That night marked our first major in-person fight and the beginning of emotional instability between us. Her mental health suffered. She got very sick from our drug use. She decided to return to Jaina's country and asked me to come with her. I had no passport, no papers, but I made it happen to the extent of forging official documents to get an express passport. Part 3. Cracks in the foundation. On October 2024, my dad was off on vacation, so we had to house sit while staying at my father's house. Things worsened. Jaina experienced meth-induced psychosis. She believed I was selling her photos online, cheating on her and manipulating her. She accused me of horrifying things, not from cruelty, but because her mind truly believed them. For days, I tried to stay calm, to help, but I eventually snapped and said things I deeply regret. This is the second biggest regret ever. She moved to a hotel, but couldn't stay away. We reunited briefly, but her delusions returned. She physically attacked me during one episode, and I still went back to care for her. The woman I loved was in there somewhere. Eventually, her father flew her to the U.S., and I followed a week later. Watching her leave destroyed me, but I kept hearing the voice. Don't give up on her. And I didn't. Part 4. A new life from late November through December 2024. We lived like a real couple. I worked. I got healthy. I was clean. I was even enrolled in an online course to become an AI developer. We started planning our wedding. We dreamed about a future. I felt like I had finally arrived at the life I always wanted. We were using drugs again, but sparingly, just enough to feel in control. I knew it wasn't sustainable, but it felt manageable. I asked her to stop before we moved, but the habit persisted. Part 5. Crumbling then came 2025. Legit on January 1st. We relapsed hard. Cocaine became a daily routine. Jaina started missing work. I failed her when she needed encouragement. She told me she was going to quit her job. Instead of encouraging her, I told her to do it. This is the third biggest regret. I let my own insecurities creep in. She talked to other men online. Innocently, she said, but I couldn't shake the jealousy. I made dating profiles. This is another huge regret. I didn't cheat physically, but the emotional betrayal was there. I was looking for validation. She found out. This changed the way she looked at me forever. Then I crossed another line. I cooked her crack cocaine. She persisted and I gave in. It changed everything. She grew angrier. In response to my dating profile incident, she sexted a friend, ex now, of mine. Even exchanged pictures. She lied about it, then confessed. My heart shattered. We had mutual friends trying to help, but nothing worked. I drank too much one night and ended up hospitalized. She told me I hit her, and I believed it. My shame was overwhelming. I was booked to fly back to my country. It felt like the end. Part 6. Hope, again at the last minute. Jaina booked a ticket too. We went together, hoping to start fresh. And for a brief moment, we did. We healed. We made plans. She told me I hadn't actually hit her on purpose, that I was flailing during a blackout, and she got caught in it. Still awful, but not what I feared. Things didn't go as expected, so we moved back. Back in Jaina's country, we fell again. Back into drugs. Back into pain. I started browsing adult content online, not to cheat, but to escape. It was still a betrayal. She found out eventually and lost all trust again. Part 7. Growing apart from March to April, we were two ghosts under the same roof. I cared for her, worked for us, but got nothing back. No affection, no intimacy. I watched her slip into a deep depression. I felt invisible. On my birthday, she barely touched me. Days later, I found out another friend had been flirting with her. We were unraveling. Fights escalated. She kicked doors, destroyed furniture. I screamed like someone I didn't recognize. We both became versions of ourselves that we didn't want to be. Where we are now, we're still in this story. It isn't over. I've made unforgivable mistakes, but never stopped loving her. I still hear that voice, "She's your wife." Although that voice isn't as frequent anymore. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. I loved her with everything I had. You would not believe these, Lil. Our kid's bro skull loudly crying face. Actually, I got a few stories. Some of them might not be intimidating. Some are, like for example, I go to a boys' S&D girls club, and this 5th grader decided that he was going to draw a smiley face, right? Well, the way he drew it, let's just say it got a certain amount of kid to pay attention. So the way he did was, he starts with the nose, which you kind of make with the long U kinda. And then on top of the long U, he adds 2 circles for the eyes. That's when it started to get attention to a certain amount of kids. Saying stuff like, hey, he's drawing something inappropriate. Or, hey, while he's trying to draw something Susie. And when the smiley face was completed, they all walked away. Here's the second story. There was this 3rd grader. Let's just call him Ethan, and he's a new kid this year. I heard he was transferred from a different school, and this kid, you wouldn't believe this, but this kid likes to growl like an animal. Some kids call him out like saying stuff like he is a furry, or anyone call animal control, we got a loose animal. Stuff like that, and I heard. He got into a fight with staff member about putting his book bag away because we're only about 3 or 4 days into the school year. And this kid was registered at a late time, and he wouldn't put it away because it didn't have his name on it. But overall, this kid was what other kids considered a bit aggressive. Now a 3rd story, which this will be my last. There was this kid below my grade. Let's just call him Colin. This happened last year, nearly the end of the school year. We were having a field day activity, which was a bounce house and stuff like that. When I was in line for the bounce house, he got into an argument with this kid who was a 4th grader. Mind you, this kid was a 7th grader. I think the 4th grader was trying to tease him with the ball, and then suddenly Colin punched him in the face real hard. I mean really hard where he left him a black eye. Colin tried to run away into the building to hide in the bathroom, but one of the kids that was in line for the bounce house, actually a few kids that was in line for the bounce house saw it. So it didn't take them very long to find out it was Colin. So they were looking for him for a little bit. And when he got out of the bathroom, he saw one staff members and he tried to run away again for a 2nd time. But the staff member caught up to him and sat him down to talk to him. They actually called his mother while they were sitting him down. Eventually his mom picked him up. But yeah, when the 4th grader's parents came along, actually it was his dad that picked him up when he heard about his son being punched by another kid giving him a black eye. He didn't like that too much, so him and his wife and the Boys and Girls Club reported a whole incident to the police. My mom is a director for club I go to. So my mom asked the school principal for camera footage, and she said sure, because right next to her was a deputy. So prior to Colin punching that kid, they were actually arguing behind the bushes, because right behind our line there's like this bench, and then there's bushes right by it. They fast forwarded camera footage a little bit until they got to the part where this 4th grade kid teased him with the ball, and then suddenly Colin snapped and ended up punching that kid. His parents thought about pressing charges on him. I don't know the end to it, but I know he never went to juvie. Anyway, that's the story of these delinquent skulls. Well guys, this was the last Dark Souls 1 Reddit Stories video, or at least for now. These videos were so fun to make, and I actually editing this video 2 days after the first part released, because I was so excited doing this. And as I'm right now writing this script, it's 2:58 a.m. on March 15th, 2026, and my channel just started as of 9 days ago. I don't know if any of you knew this, but I had a channel before this with the same name and same style of videos, but I had to stop making videos on that channel due to it getting a massive bot attack. So I had to start fresh. The channel had 34 subscribers, which isn't a lot compared to other YouTubers, but it was to me, so it was a bummer starting fresh. But at the same time, I was looking forward to it because I knew the style of videos I wanted, and I could improve from those concepts and make it better each video. And as I stated before, I'm making this about 2 days after the first part went up, and I don't know for sure if the videos will do well, but this is something I want to do. I have fun making the videos, and I'm not going to give up making them. Now I know the text-to-speech is a little off-putting, but I use it because I'm a very private person, and I don't want to record my voice anytime soon. Maybe in the future I will do a voice reveal, but as off right now, I have no plan to do that. But I also use text-to-speech because I don't want this channel to be me or seen as a person to watch. I want this channel to be a place where people sit back, relax, and enjoy my videos when they're going through bad, sad, rough times, or even if life's great and you just want to relax. That's what I want this channel to be. But I ramble enough. I don't know what the next game I'm going to do for a series next is. I think I might do Demon Souls, the PS3 version. I know I'm doing a Minecraft series, and I want to start making that hopefully later today. But as of right now, that was Dark Souls 1. I hope you guys enjoyed the series and had a relaxing night. And I'll catch you guys later. Good night, everyone.